Welcome back to another episode of SENSI. Today we are here again for another episode on energy. But today I want to focus a little bit more on meaning. Where last episode I really defined energy and I defined form and I give examples and I tried to talk about the utility and the limitation of form. But this episode I really want to get into meaning because, like I said last episode, meaning is how we seal form. It's how it gains weight in our life. We assign meaning, and oftentimes it's many layers of meaning we assign to a certain thing. And this is where our power lies to influence the forms in our lives. Being able to notice the meanings in our life, the meanings maybe that other people are bringing in, but also being able to distinguish what meanings you are bringing to a situation, what things mean to you, not just what you want them to, but what they are actively, truly meaning to you in that moment. And being able to recognize, observing those, which meanings are aiding in that corruption of your energy that makes it so that you can't create change in your life, that's hurting you, blocking you in, and then also being able to notice what meanings fuel the use of our energy, which actually help us to create change in our lives. Meaning is a human construct. And I also just want to stop right there, because just to recognize, say that as a definition of meaning right there, it is a human construct. I feel like often there can be people who can get so caught up in meaning and like, what meaning does life have? What's it good for? They want to understand the meaning of things as if there's one right absolute meaning of a thing. You can let that fucking go, because it's just not true. Meaning is a human construct. We make it up, we create it. That's not to say that it doesn't have weight, it does, right? Because of the ways in which we exist, you know what I mean? The emotional nature that we have. Meaning influences our idea of things, the way we treat things. It influences how we feel in our body. It can generate emotions, it can build relationships, you know what I mean? The ceremony of so many things that we live by. I've already talked about how meaning is layered in all of it, you know what I mean? I'm in no way trying to say that it does not have use. It has such use, but we have to recognize it for what it is. And it's not some divinely infused sentimentality of a thing. It is always what someone puts on it. So meaning is always subjective, because meaning is a human construct imposed on things that dictate their use and their value. And that's going to be different depending on the human that's imposing that meaning onto whatever form they're putting it on, you know what I mean? Who are they? What are their values? What do they want to do? Who do they want to be? What do they want to have? How do they want people to interact or think of them? And you know what I mean? All of these things are going to back up the meaning that you impose on things. This isn't supposed to be an idea that makes you feel like, oh, well, what's the point? If it doesn't mean anything bigger, if it's all on me, who am I to have a say? Who am I to create meaning? I can create meaning, but it's not going to mean anything. That right there just shows what meaning you put on yourself, how much respect you have, or how much you take yourself seriously right there. So right there's a meaning to look back on. Why does it carry that meaning for you? If you can think that the meaning that other people impose means more, why? Why does the meaning you impose not mean as much? Because I think that's an idea worth fucking up. Every human, always, for the history of all humans, has been constructing meaning. And in that way, it's your birthright. You are a human being, and you get to construct your own meaning too. And this will dictate your life. That is power you have to create change in your own life. Now, as a person who has been told many times in your life that you put too much meaning into things, this is an incredibly rich playing field. You get to choose meaning. You get to choose what has meaning. But what I want you to ask yourself is, of all the things that have meaning to you, how many of them do you want to have meaning? How many of those things do you want to mean what they currently mean to you? because they don't have to. And I'm not trying to make that sound simple, like you can just like write it off. Because when things are like a part of our programming, it isn't that simple to just be like, meh, I don't want that to mean anything to me anymore. And then just go on about your day and the rest of your life, never thinking about it. It doesn't happen like that. You know what I mean? I mean, some things, right, you can make a quick change, but in general, there are things that are a deep part of us that do take time and a lot of shifts to reduce their influence. But it is important to recognize that we do have that power, especially, again, being people who create meaning so offhandedly, right? That's not a shortcoming. You can play into that and where you're directing that energy. So noting that it's not a black or white thing, I think it's really important to recognize that it's not just about the history of what things have meant to you. I feel like a lot of times, especially with erecting monuments, that's something that we get stuck on. What things have meant to us, what they've meant to us in the past, what it means to other people. We're stuck in all of these things that already are. They've already been dictated. They've already happened. They have such weight to us. We put such weight, such meaning in the past. But what I want to draw attention to is that whatever's happening in this moment in your life, this intersection of meaning from other people's meaning, from your past idea of what things mean, this intersection, this present moment right now, more meaning will come from this. What meaning you lean into, what meaning you see, what you choose to do based off of the way you prioritize meaning, you are impacting the future. You are creating more meaning that you will then see and have to choose from in the future based on what you're choosing right now. So choose wisely. That's what we want to be able to implement. You're a human who gets to construct your own meaning. You are a person who is generating meaning all the fucking time. But a lot of times we act as though we are just the effect of that meaning. We're the result of it. We're chained to it. We have to enact it. We have no choice. It has dictated limitations to us, and we must behave within those boundaries. Very much a victim mindset, rather than thinking more like, I am the craftsman of meaning. I'm not the outcome, I'm not the object, I'm not the reception of the meaning, I'm not a victim of it. I am the system, I'm the means, I'm the method of this meaning, I'm the overseer of it, I am the producer. I produced this energy, I produced this meaning. And to engage with that process, because so often these things, it's like almost they're coming up into our consciousness. There was something I heard not that long ago, and I don't remember it accurately, but it was something like, your thoughts aren't a command. Your associations, whatever's coming up in your mind, those aren't commands, they're just suggestions. So when you're coming to a scenario and you have these people putting this meaning in, all these meanings coming up from the past, and there's these potentials that are positive and they almost hurt you, and you make them mean less, because people so often have this idea of, oh, I'm gonna set my expectations low and then I won't be disappointed when things don't work out, which I think is like, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You're setting yourself up for a small, draining life when that's all you let yourself think and feel and do. Like, that's all the meaning you allow. Like, it's ass backwards to me, but whatever. This is such a beautiful moment to be at, this intersection of meaning, because it's tapping into this present moment where you get to actually play with, what am I all feeling? How does this feel in my body? Why do I think this? And to be able to actively play and rearrange with these things and choose which ones you spend more time with. And this snowballs. And I feel the need to rant about this, but I am going to put a pause there, and I'm not going to rant about it. I hope you just sit on this, because this moment is a beautiful and powerful fucking place to be. This is how and where you can make change in your life. it's exactly in moments like this and tapping into these moments rather than out. I want you to imagine for a minute, if your energy currently at this moment in time is not siphoned off, through these meanings into these forms that drain you, those ones that are taking up your brain space, right? Living there rent-free. The ones that are dictating your identity, dictating your identity, who you can possibly be, who you could allow yourself to be, who other people would accept you to be, that are dictating your identity, that are informing you in how to respond in relationships to opportunities that present themselves to you. And not just how you react to the opportunities. These sorts of things can even influence if you see them as possibilities or opportunities at all. What sort of opportunities come to you that you might not even be recognizing? How you respond to challenges as they come up, or your proclivity to see things as challenges rather than opportunities that take up your precious fucking time, that influence your emotions, or your moods, or on a larger scale, even your temperament as a person. If these things weren't there, if they meant nothing to you, if the meaning just wasn't even something that crossed your mind, if they weren't there to constantly serve as proof of your limitations, if they weren't constantly there for you to build narratives on, right? Because our mind has that confirmation bias. If we already think this means this, if we already think this is who I am and this is my use, we're going to look at things to reaffirm that then build narratives upon narratives upon narratives. And it's like we've built that monument and it's just continuously is dipped in gold, and there's another layer, and there's another layer, and there's another layer, and this form gets harder and harder and harder and harder, and we get further and further and further and further from energy, from truth, from possibility. If these things weren't fucking there, imagine how much energy you would have, pure energy, not form, but all of these things, all of the energy that is put into these forms, if they came right back to you and it was energy, how much energy would you have at your disposal to do the coolest shit with? I feel like when your energy is called back into your body like that, you instantly have a greater concept of who you are. And things feel less tiring. Like, oh God, fuck, if I had all that energy, I would just not do this, and I would never go here, and I would just say that to that person, and I would just stop fucking living like this. Like, I wouldn't put myself in this situation. I wouldn't continuously dress like this because I'm afraid this person, you know what I mean? Well, the way I have it worded here is, if we aren't drenching ourselves in limitation as a way to orient to other people and their expectations or their worldviews to confirm their lived experiences, all of that energy is still possibility. Our identity, or our identities, and our lives are so much bigger than the characterizations we have received and could possibly receive from other people, because other people who aren't sensitive, who don't lean into it, they can't possibly model for us what they are ignorant of. You know what I mean? They can't guide us. They can't show us, because their understanding of it is less than our own. We have to be the ones to show them. But so often in the stereotype, we've learned that we are anything but a leader. You cannot take the lead. You can't handle it. You don't have what it takes to be a leader. So we're always just succumbing to whatever is around us, trying to have the path of least resistance for ourselves because we're tired, but also for other people because we're just so hard on them. We make things so difficult on them. Our identity, and our lives are so much bigger than the characterizations we have received. And the amount of energy and the amount of emotion and the amount of meaning that we experience is a testament to that. And that is what is so fucking steezy about being sensitive. We are always sensing the energy. We're always feeling the potential. And it's just like we don't realize that as these meanings pop up, they're not to dictate you. They're not absolute. They are suggestions. They're just potentials popping up, popping up, popping up. What do you want to do with them? What do you want to do with them? What is this one? Do you like how that feels? Where does that lead you? You get to play with them. You get to choose, and you can drop the rest. It's just this vast, immutable source that are temporarily making forms. It's not as soon as a form is made, you have to snatch it up. You know what I mean? It is a natural inclination of ours. That is what it is to be sensitive. You have a natural inclination to sense and to feel and to want to feel the weight of. And that's why I feel like meanings come to us, and why we almost feel that we are like an obligation to maintain them or to enact them or to honor them or something. Because it's not just that we see the possibility of the meanings, we feel them. When a meaning comes up, we feel it. And because we feel that meaning, it feels real. And therefore, to us, it's instantly a form. That's already a form. That just is. It has weight. It's a solid. Because we don't distinguish that window of time, that intersection of meaning. We don't know that, hey, we can sit there and observe. It's actually quite expansive. It's not a moment and it's gone. Oh, it's dictated to me. This is a form now. It's a field that you get to play in. And you also have an effect in. We have so much energy to make use of, right? We're not a victim of this energy. It's for us to make use of it. Instead, we have spent so much of our time and our energy and possibility and our identity trying to understand ourselves through other people or in relation to other people. We have to understand ourselves through our own perspective first. Like, first and foremost, you have to be able to see your own perspective, your own lived experience for itself. You have to learn to trust yourself, basically. That, I think, is the biggest lesson that a sensitive person has to learn. It's the biggest skill they have to learn how to implement, is trusting yourself. I truly feel like anything that I've talked about in this podcast, anything that I will ever talk about in this podcast, this is the tipping point. Can you trust yourself? Will you trust yourself? Because if you can have that self-trust to lean on, that informs a very, very different path in life. And I want to sit on that forever. I won't. I'll let you guys sit on it. Trusting yourself is a major fucking tipping point in life. It's from that place that you want to act. You want to act from a place of self-trust. That is where you want to make decisions from. Not from apathy, not from reactivity, not from a persecution story. And so much of our lives, that is where we are taking action from. That's where we're making decisions from, is from a disempowered and distorted place. So our lives are dictated by always aligning to that meaning, always assigning that meaning, always backing up that meaning. That's just a distorted life, like always responding, always a rebuttal, a reaction, a response to something else, never just from yourself, from your center, from a sound place, from your wellspring. And again, when I talked about wellsprings last season, I said, it is where the water comes out of the mountain, right? If you talk about that initial impulse of your experience and what it feels like and where it comes from, it is pure, clean water straight out of the mountain, you know, springing forth and out of the mountain. But where we often are relating to it or trying to understand it from is way down the way, where it's already been contaminated and polluted, and we're interacting with what's ours, this wellspring of who we are, from a place where other people have put their opinions in and their hurts, and have projected their own pain and their own trauma, and even from a place of being traumatized. This is where we are trying to self-reflect from. This is where we're trying to learn about ourselves from. You can't learn about yourself from that place, because it's already a distorted aspect of who you are. You're learning about the distortion. You're responding to the distortion. You're basing meaning or changing meaning based off of the distortion. It's still a reaction. Instead of getting to know yourself from where you originate, where your experience first makes itself known, where you can and where you want to, and it only makes sense to take ownership over your energy because it's clearly yours. Down the way, we're trying to make sense of it, we're trying to take ownership. We know that accountability is an important and mature thing to do, but it's so hard to, because a lot of self-hatred can come from that, because there's so much in this polluted spot that when we look at, we either feel like, I want to discount, okay, but then I'm not taking accountability. So, but I want to take accountability, but these things, when I take them on, it makes me hate myself. Is that who I really am? Is that what I'm really made of? No. Now, to get back to the place where we can see ourselves as we truly are, to get to know ourselves at the starting point as pure energy, right? The initial pulse of life, or that initial impulse, or that initial experience as things make themselves known to you. You can do that through developing trust. You know what I mean? We need to be able to develop trust with ourselves to be able to get there. So a statement that I have here, which I think is really like a starting point for all of this, is we can trust ourselves with the energy that we feel. I hope that you noticed the impulse there, that first pulse of that experience for you when I said that. How did it feel in your body? What emotion, what sensory experience? Where did you feel it in your body? Was it dense? Was it light? Was it moving? Was it, you know what I mean? What were the qualities of that experience in your body or in your mind? What did you think? What images, what memories, what criticism, whose voice was it in? Like, paying attention to these aspects of your experience that are conditioning. They are distortions. They are not you feeling you at your center, at your core, in the truest essence of who you are. How would life seem? What would life be like if you trusted yourself with the energy you feel? Trusting your own perception, not as absolute, not as correct, not as right, just as a truth, as real, as valid, as actually happening, that has meaning. Because it's a part of your experience and it's impacting you and it has meaning to you, even if you don't want it to. It currently is having, it is currently carrying meaning for you. This is so significant because trusting ourselves isn't about forms. It precedes forms. And I think that this is a moment where we really lack, and we can really trip up and skip over this step. And then when we get forward and we realize, fuck, I thought I trusted myself. Why don't I trust myself? And we don't find that space where the trust can actually be integrated into our bodies. Okay, I hope I explained this well. But when it comes to trusting ourselves, we don't want it to be form-based, we want it to be energy-based. And when I say this, what I'm really saying is without proof. And that might sound a little funky, but hear me out. Because so much of life is based on you need proof. If there's no proof, if things don't add up, then this thing has been disproved, it's it's not of any significance. It's ignorant to believe it and to go by it. But when it comes to trust in yourself, this is a little bit short-sighted. And I want to be clear here, this is very much a self-trust thing, because when it comes to trusting someone else, watching how they've behaved, how they treat people, how they hold themselves accountable, how kind, how much they actually reflect, work on things, that track record means a hell of a lot. And having that track record of yourself is a way you can learn about yourself, and it can really, really help you a lot as well. So I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to say that this is not the right way to go about things. It's very, very important. But when it comes to self-trust, and we're constantly trying to base our relationship with ourselves based off of external shit, like it's a very disembodied process. It's missing the point, because no one can know you better than you do. And all of these forms, you have to recognize these habits of yours, the way you've behaved, your track record is so much based off of, I'm having such a hard time getting here. Okay, we're gonna try and go about this a little bit differently here. And I'm gonna start, rather than working my way in, we're gonna start from in and move outward. Do you know what it feels like to be in touch with yourself? To feel like a deep sense of integrity in yourself, to know that intarnishable center. Do you know what that feels like? Do you know how to access it? Because I feel that a lot of times the process of having to look at your track record, and if your track record's not good because you've been a shitty person and you've made your mistakes, a lot of times this then somehow leads us to believe that, okay, I can't believe in myself now. There's no good reason to. There's nothing deeper. I'm not worth that consideration. I'm not worth that time. These things, right? Examining myself from this polluted place, I'm not worth the time. I'm not worth the forgiveness. I can't be trusted in this way and that way and whatever. And then you build your life based off of those. All those beliefs and those attitudes and those opinions and those, things that you do to protect yourself, and self-preservation and self-defense and your ways of safely relating to other people. All of these things, do you know where they stem from? Do you know how to access that place where your beliefs and your attitudes and your opinions and your intuition, where those things stem from? Not them themselves, but the energy that creates those things. That place where there is no uncertainty, that place where all truths are held evenly, where you don't need proof to organize the priority of things, because you can simply sit back and hold things in their own right, where there is nothing competing for attention. And the proof of this one thing happening doesn't mean that nothing else can be, or that you couldn't possibly do something different. Do you know what precedes these forms? Do you know what precedes these traumas? Do you know what precedes this pollution? That is what I mean by when I say you don't need proof. Because all is sound here, all is true here, all is accounted for here in the wellspring. It's not up for external outcomes to somehow prove or disprove that source. Oh man, you're just so mangled and twisted and removed from it. It's like you have this entire identity, like massive, more than you could ever possibly know that you are. And then you're put into a situation where the parents, or whoever your parents are, right? It just happens, it's part of socialization, who expect certain things from you, that you're only allowed to do certain things. Certain things are not encouraged, they have no value, so then you do away with them. Or you don't, and then you're put into situations where you're enacting these aspects of yourself that you can't fight, but you're villainized yourself because you shouldn't be doing these things. They're not good. You have to do them secretly, right? There's a lot of shame around them, or aggression or anger. And then you start acting these things. And then people see this, and then they start viewing you in a certain way. They start regarding you in a certain way. So then you start taking this as your own identity. This influences the way that you dress, the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you interact with people, who you think is worth your time and who isn't. How you respond to confrontations, how you respond to your emotions, where you think you belong, your worth. This influences maybe what jobs you take, your likeliness to stay at jobs, how you were treated in relationships, how you treat people you're in a relationship with. It's impacting your environment, it's dictating your environment. And then you're deciding, oh, my environment is proof of this or that or that or that, so I'm gonna make my decisions for the future based off of the circumstances of right now. I'm gonna use the circumstances of right now as proof of who I can be, who I am, what I should have, what direction I should go in. We're always looking at circumstances, which I think are really, their happenstance is how it seems to me. These things in a big picture are happenstance. So we're looking at happenstance as proof of our identity, and then being like, oh yeah, well that's the proof in the pudding, this is where we're gonna go. And then once you've already been restricted as a child, say, and then you grow older and you're acting based off of expectations or your resistance to those expectations here, then you're already removed from who you are. And then you're acting as an identity, not as a whole broad person. And then things are interacting with you at that level. And then to cope with that, you shift your identity or you constrict your identity. And then this happens, and then you get older, and then you have these other, like, it just keeps going, and every step along the way, you're getting further and further and further removed from the energy, the possibility of everything that you are, and you're just a construction of happenstance. And none of it, even though all these meanings are placed off of who your parents were and who you are and what your value is and what that means about how you should dress, because people who feel like that tend to look like this, and then, oh, I'm not good enough for that environment, so I'm gonna go in this environment, even though this isn't fitting to me either, you know, in some non-verbal way. I don't feel that I belong here, but I belong here more than I belong there, or this person thinks that I belong here, so I'm gonna go here. This has fucking nothing to do with you. This has nothing to do with proof of who you are at all, at fucking all, not at all. But we base our lives based off of all of these meanings that were built up and 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 built up. And we don't even know that there is something deeper. So we're looking for proof in a polluted place. So when you view it like this, it's like whatever proof we're getting is just kind of moot. Like, what is it proof of? Because when you're looking at the field of forms and black and white and structures and limitations, there's all these meanings and laws of operation that operate within them that you are then stuck in. But then you're just stuck in this machination and you're not actually living. I don't know how else to word it. Like, that's how it feels. And anything that you do or become or act doesn't really have to do with you, who you truly fucking are. It has to do with all of the meanings that come together to create your identity. Last season, I mentioned psychocybernetics and how in it, the doctor describes your personality as a tool that you use to interact in the world. It's like a socialization, I don't know what word I'm looking for here, but it is a mask. And I really don't like using that when people say, oh, it's a mask, what masks are you wearing or whatever? Because to me, it sounds very, very thin. It sounds very superficial when it's not. It's very, very It's very deep, it's very broad, and I think maybe that's why I like that armor idea more. It's not just a mask you're putting on your face, it's your whole fucking getup. It is everything. It covers your entire body. It is heavy, it's thick. You know what I mean? There's a lot to it. There's a heavier imagery when you think of like a knight covered in armor, heavy armor, being borne down by the weight of this armor than just someone wearing a $2 mask from a dollar store or something. You know what I mean? Like it has depth to it. It does. It has much impact. But it's not because it's absolute. It's not because it's who you truly are. The personality that you use is a tool to interact in the social world. And all this time growing up and getting farther and farther removed from the depth of who you are truly, you're just refining your personality. You're refining that tool. You're refining that tool. You're finding new ways to use the tool. You're changing the tool. You're altering the tool. But it is a tool. It is actually not proof of who you are. It's a tool that you have cultivated to interact in the world, to survive in the world, to belong in the world. And that this tool, to use the doctor's words again, tool of your personality is like a funnel that shapes you. The neck of the funnel, if all you, to think of it this way, everything that you are, everything you could be, everything that you contain, everything in its pure essence as energy, all that you could possibly do with your life and be, all of it's you, is poured into this funnel. And the neck of this funnel only allows things that conform to its dimensions through. Not you in your entirety, but you as a tool, the utility of you. You know what I mean? Your programming can fit through this. This creates your programming, the armor that you wear, your utility in social situations and in life as a human in general. These identities that come through this, your personality, this is where your perspectives come from, your biases come from. This identity has trauma, it has insecurities, it can suffer indignities, it can have enemies, it has a history, it has habits, oppositions, it has forms. It is nothing but forms compiled and pushed into one conglomerate of a form, basically. That is what your personality is. And this funnel, coming through this funnel, is the process by which you are made into a form. This is how you are made into a legal person, a human being of a certain lineage, in a certain town, in a certain age. Something believed to be solid and unchanging. You're not supposed to waver. You're not, you know what I mean? People have this idea that a person of integrity doesn't change. They are who they are, they're consistent, and they're reliable. It has these associations, these meanings are attached to it. This is my idea of integrity. And maybe I've said it in the podcast before. I don't know if I have. I know I've said it somewhere, but your wellspring is integrity. You being in your center is integrity. That intarnishable center is integrity. And that intarnishable center isn't tarnished by these forms that prove or disprove its utility at all. These fucking things don't touch it. It is untouchable. It is whole. It can't not be. And when integrity comes from that, it can look very different, because it's not about maintaining one form and being reliable and not shocking other people and maintaining convention. You are who you say you are. It's about being able to recognize your truth and your center in many different varying scenarios that require different things from you. I wish I could find the way that I worded it somewhere. If I find it, I'll have to bring it in. But to me, integrity is deep here. It's not about the forms maintaining the same. It's about recognizing that these forms change and being able to stay in touch with that center the whole time as life and your identity and your relationships and your environment changes. But from a very form-based place of you have to prove that you can believe in this thing, that it's real, that it's substantial, a form that wavers is no good as a form. It's unstable. If you change as a person, you're unstable. You're inconsistent, you're fickle. Because if, like I said last episode, forms are anything that are, solid, which something cannot pass through. That's the ideal. An ideal form is something solid, unchanging, that you cannot pass through. And if a solid lets something pass through, it's not very good as a solid, is it? And if you as a person, as an identity, are meant to be a form, a hard form, a solid, if you change and if you're mutable, then you're just no good. Your utility as a human being, it's just not there. This process takes you in your entirety and it truncates it. But you, in your entirety, uncorrupted, undistorted, unpolluted, that you can trust. And when I'm talking about self-trust, that is what I'm talking about. The part of you that doesn't have to earn trust, that doesn't have to prove it to someone else, and you trusting yourself doesn't have to be approved by someone else, because no one else can see this aspect of you. No one can get in touch with it the way that you do. They can get, catch a whiff of it, is how it feels to me. Like, if you can stay in that center, it is part of the energy that you show up to a space with. And that is how people can experience. But they can't experience it without you. They can't experience it without you experiencing it. And even the aspects that they do get to experience of it, they're just fragments. They're just little aspects of it. They're just little moments of it that them as an outside observer can only grab up as a form. Oh, this is who this person is. This is how this person made me feel. You know what I mean? Which is just human processes. I'm not trying to say anything bad about this. I'm just saying that this is the process by which it happens. But we need to know that is not source. Meaning is not even source. Meaning is a human construct. It's beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful experience that this comes up. I want that to be clear. I love meaning. I fucking love creating meaning. I love feeling into meaning. But to be able to sink back into what precedes meaning, into what precedes form, what I want to even say, what precedes proof. Like, you cannot prove it. You don't need to prove it. You need to know it. Because meaning will come, forms will come, experiences will be dictated always. I don't place much emotion in that. It's not a good or a bad thing. It just is. That's a part of being human. Like, I'm okay with that. I can work with that system, the tools that like interact with that. Like, I'm cool. I can understand that. We can work with it. But to live life from that place, not knowing what's underneath, from that place, I wanted to die for sure. Life was cruel and unusual and boring, and I was stuck in the monotony of it all, and I didn't get it. Like, because who I am has to be proved, and other people from this place are really good judges of whether something is real and exists in the outer world. So then you're almost you come to believe that it is much better to rely on other people's view, because they can help prove or disprove something of yours. Or your value, but then you're always stuck as an effect of these meanings. You're an effect of these systems, rather than knowing what the fuck precedes them. What is life? What does life feel like? Not just human constitution, sure, human constructions or institutions. What precedes those things? Not you as a legal entity, but you as a consciousness. You as energy. And once you can do this, once you are able to stay close to your center, where you are untarnished, that changes life. Because once you can act from that place, once you're in integrity, not just enacting integrity, seemingly integrity, right? Is that form, does it have integrity? Is it structurally sound? Not that bullshit. Once you are in integrity, once you live from integrity, it informs all decisions you make. It informs all perceptions, not just that you have, but the perceptions that how you view the perceptions. Like I said earlier, with meaning, and that when these meanings pop up, we suddenly will grab to them. It's like, oh, that's a form, and we sanctify it, we seal it with meaning, right? We try to maintain it, rather than being like, no, this is a rich playing field where we get to play in meaning. What do these things mean? What do we want it to mean? And we can build on what we choose. And, you know, obviously respecting the things that genuinely do mean something to us, because that's a part of our lived experience. We need to acknowledge that. But from the same place, it's not that it's going to dictate the perceptions, just like it doesn't dictate the meanings that come up in us, but it changes how you interact with your perceptions. It changes how you interact with the meanings you feel, because you recognize that it's like a delicious platter with lots of different offerings, playful energy rather than constrictive energy. When you can be here, once you can cultivate that awareness and that relationship with yourself, anything that comes after is secondary. And that is what I mean when I say that to trust yourself as energy without needing proof, because any forms and any proof, any meaning that comes up is secondary to pure life force, life energy. You as a conscious, living, diverse, ever-changing unit of life. Meaning is secondary. So even if that's just a thought you play with, if nothing else from this episode, if that's something that you play with, that when meanings come up, that's not fact, that's not absolute. It's not that they're right because they said it louder, faster, they said it with better words. Just because a meaning came up in me doesn't mean it's true. That doesn't mean it has to dictate my life. I can play with these things. What does that meaning say? Where does that meaning come from? Where does that meaning take me? Do I like that meaning? Because here's two opposing meanings that I have. I can play with both. Which one is going to corrupt my energy, and which one is going to fuel the use of my energy in my life? And actually, even if there is no external proof, it's going to help give me the energy and the sense of agency and the sense of power to cause change in my life, rather than being the victim of change happening to me or upon me or at me. This place is very sustainable. Things are sustainable when you act from this place. And I hope that makes sense. So when I started this podcast, or the reason I started this podcast, was because I was caught up in a lot of forms. I was caught up in a lot of historical meanings that had meant a lot to me, and clearly did. I thought that I don't want to say I thought I had grown so much, and I had expanded my idea of sensitivity and my relationship with it, and how I could use it to fuel me rather than corrupt me. Even when you think you're beyond meaning, it can still trip you up. And I was in a situation that really, really triggered that persecution story. And I was aware enough of these ideas that I'm talking about and sensitivity and what it means to me to be like, whoa, what the fuck's happening right now? And to know that I had a choice. Like, I did not any longer feel that the source of who I was or my value was tied to these forms. I knew better. And yet meaning still impacts you. There was an interaction with someone at a coffee shop, and I knew this person was already mad at me, and they had good reason to be mad at me. I knew that they had felt disregarded. I had made a decision that I knew would make them feel insecure, and this person really, really relies on a sense of security, right? Organization, control. They like, and I know this of them. I know they come by it naturally. I knew they were upset with me, and I was making space for that. Like, I knew that they struggle to express their emotions. So I just tried to give them space and let them feel it out, and trusting that they would come to me when they were ready to, but they didn't. Instead, we were having this coffee date with someone, a meeting, basically, and this person said, oh yeah, not like Shaylin, you know, who's so sensitive about everything. And just, it had nothing, like, it wasn't even relevant in the conversation. Like, it had nothing to do with the meeting, this person, what we were talking, nothing at all. And it had nothing to do in the moment. We had just sat down like literally 2 minutes before. And I remember the other person we were with and me like meeting eyes, like, oh, okay, that was weird. And I assumed that this other person thought like, okay, clearly something's going on between them that I don't know about. And if it had just been that one comment, it would have blown by. But this pattern continued. This person continued, and this other person continued to be around for it. And eventually, this other person started treating me with that same disregard. And I'm like, observing the situation and being like, this has to stop at some point. You have to recognize how petty you're being. You have to recognize how not subtle this is. And they didn't. And the fact that I knew this person for a long time, and they knew this was one of my oldest wounds, right? Like my oldest wounds of being written off as ineffectual and having no voice, not being able to be heard. And that's very much what I felt like I got swept up in here. Because from the beginning, I was like, I'm not gonna react because it's not worth my time. But then my not engaging suddenly then became proof of the stereotype. Because this person introduced this concept of a stereotype where I was legally and emotionally obligated to maintain showing up to, this now colored the interactions that we had. If I react, that's going to be proof of the volatility of sensitivity. If I don't react, that's going to also prove of the immaturity of sensitivity because I shut down and I can't handle my emotions. If I direct them adressly, I'm making things mean too much. I'm making a bigger deal than it needs to be. I'm also proving the sensitive stereotype. So I felt like I was stuck in this like hologram that had nothing to do with me, but was somehow always directed at me, which is so often how I felt as a child, being, you know, a stereotypical sensitive person. And what really, really did me in was that this person would bring that back up repeatedly, trying to egg me on with a quality that I felt was, if not my greatest asset, one of my greatest assets. And they would use that to demean me, really fucked with my head. The fact that they didn't show any self-awareness of it, they didn't show any discretion about it, they didn't feel that they could come to me and just talk to me about it, fucked with me. And what also fucked with me was that this person actively benefited from this inclination of mine, my relationship and the weight that I give to emotions and my desire to express emotions and communicate clearly, and you know what I mean? They benefited from this regularly. Because they are someone who gets very uncomfortable with emotions, I was often the one to initiate communication that would bring up things that they were doing or saying and how they were feeling and help give them perspective on it, who would bring up when there was issues between us. I was the one to initiate it and help bring about a resolve, to bring about a resolution. The fact that this person would know my hurt, use it against me repeatedly in front of a work relationship, influencing how this person viewed me, seemed not apologetic about it at all. And to be doing so about a quality that they simultaneously benefited from. They would shit on me for a quality of mine that they didn't have, that they benefited from. Insulted me. I was deeply offended, and I was not running from it. I felt I had very, very good reason to be offended. And I just waited for them to notice how fucking immature they were being. Because I was never mad at them for being mad at me. As soon as I had made the decision that I did that made them feel disregarded, they were the first person I reached out to, told them what I thought, told them about what concerns came up for me and what I was going to do to manage those things, showing them, hey, this isn't left unacknowledged. I'm not leaving you in the lurch. This is what I think. What concerns do you have, right? I brought it straight to them. And they responded a little bit, told me that they were pissed, but then they shut down. And the fact that they would shut down, even though they know that I'm receptive, and then they would hurt me, like it was just such a mind fuck to be in. And then I was stuck in this place that had given me so much sense of purpose and freedom in the past, and now I was trapped in it. And I was acting like I was some sort of hanger-on. I remember feeling at that time, this will not mean to me what it has always meant to me. Because when I just simply won't let it. Because it already doesn't. Like I've already observed and felt differently about this interaction than I ever have in the past. And a part of that was me not running from my offense and me feeling the respect I had for myself. Like I will not engage with this. Even if you somehow, when you make little comments and I don't react, you smirk, you can do what you want and you can continue to do what you want. I will not let this make me act like a lesser version of myself. And another part of it was too that I would not let it paint sensitivity in a negative light. Because whatever you guys are doing right now has nothing to do with me, and it has nothing to do with sensitivity. And that was something I very, very firmly felt in my body from the beginning. Like, this has absolutely nothing to do with sensitivity. Last season, the tag was liberation from silence. And that was very much, obviously they're connected, because to me, it just re-triggered exactly what that stereotype always had done for me. It made me feel silenced. I have no constructive path forward, because any path that I take somehow serves as proof of the outline that you're putting on top of me. Everywhere that it lines up, it's like, oh, there's the proof. And in that proof, it made me feel like, oh, I can't possibly trust myself. From that distorted place of living, I couldn't trust myself. I wasn't worth trusting myself. I wasn't trustworthy. When really, how much of that actually had nothing to do with me. And I could recognize that while still being like, I have almost 30 years at that time of lived experience with this dynamic. There's a lot of proof here. There's a lot of habit. There's a lot of forms that would dictate me to act in a certain way, to fall into this. It would be easy for me to fall into this. I know this role well, but I was cognizant of this enough to be unmoved, to observe and ask, will I give into it? Do I consent to this? And also, do I want to build on that meaning? Like I said earlier in this episode, meaning will come from this. Yes, tons of meaning, tons of threads are interwoven here to create this. It would be easy for you to just lay in that bed. It's made for you. It would be easy to pick up where you left off. But to know at that same time, so much new meaning will come from this. Not just coming before this, but after this. How you choose to handle this right now impacts what meaning carries on in your life. Do you want to build on this meaning that you've been slowly trying to like break the threads of? You know, again, it would be easy to stay in the same lane, or it's harder and you can keep building this wider and broader and healthier identity that you have been over the last couple of years. Choose wisely. What would that look like? Yes, there is meaning backing this 100%. Your pain is real. Your offense is real. Their actions are real. The meanings, the associations, the history, these are all fucking real. These meanings are real. There are more meanings yet unknown that will be made by this. What do you want them to be? I imagine it like orbits, like celestial bodies, right? And their orbits. And I was thinking of like everyone as their own separate, distinct body. I simply would not sync up with this. The way that I saw it at that moment in the coffee shop was this person and their orbit pulling people in, and this other person consented to this orbit. They were now a part of that orbit, and it made this orbit bigger. It made this meaning bigger. It made it more powerful. It made the gravitational pull stronger. Here I am on the outskirts. Will I be pulled in? Will I let myself be pulled in? And I felt the biggest way that I could ensure that I didn't was to simply not acknowledge, to not interact, to not take the bait, to not even address it. Because to me, it was such drama that was crafted that I truly, deeply felt had nothing to do with me, that I felt the safest thing to do was to just simply not react, to not respond. You can snap back, you can grovel, you can taunt them in return, you can play them against each other, you can over-explain yourself, you can cower to make yourself look like less of a threat. You can retaliate, you can shut down. Doing these things would have been incredibly easy because it would have allowed me to release a lot of pent-up energy. Not just simply because you're living, there's energy exchange. This was building energy. I had so much reaction, I had so much response, there were so many things I wanted to say, there was so much experience, there was so much pain, there were so many possibilities that were being overshadowed that pissed me off. There was so much energy being built up that I wanted to do with it. And me not letting myself to do that, it caused a lot of additional pain that wasn't unavoidable, but I didn't know a better way to play with it, or better ways to use it at that time. So I just sat with it. But to me, even though it resulted in this stagnancy that hurt, to me, it was still better than acting like a lesser version of myself. Because doing those things, all it would have done is corrupt my energy. And I know that. And I just simply, at that point, respected my energy way too fucking much to build up into this meaning that these people were doing that I just didn't care for. And also because there is this belief and this knowingness in myself, because of being able to sink down into myself, not only is my energy worth too much to corrupt in these petty ways, my energy is not best served expelling it onto other people, causing corruption or distortion in them so that they can't cause change in their own life. I don't want to be a part of that meeting. I don't want to be a part of that orbit either. Our own energy is for us. It is for us. You know what I mean? And this applies to our hurt and to our anger and to our sadness and anything else that we don't want to feel. They are not burdens that we didn't want and we want to like crumple them up and throw them at someone else because we're pissed off that they triggered us or something. You know what I mean? They are energy and they are knowledge for our own use. These things we experience, our experience is our own, we receive them. They come up for us to receive them, to feel them, to hear them, to acknowledge them, to experience them. So the most constructive thing you can do is open up and receive them, even if they hurt like a bitch. Because it's meeting this rupture and playing with it and letting yourself be made anew. That is how you learn, and that is how you grow, and then you get to show up and behave differently in the world. Where coming at the situation from a very distorted place, I could have very easily felt like I had a million times in the past, felt like this isn't fair. I have self-respect. I must make them know that. But coming at it from my center, I felt my self-respect. You know what I mean? I don't want to say it was intense, but it was potent. Like it takes up space. It meant something to me. It had weight. You know, rather than trying to make it mean something to someone else and hoping that that will cause them to behave differently, you know? If you embody that self-respect, that is when people can see it. I looked back at my journal when I was coming to make notes for this episode, and there were 8 months where I just did not say a single word about the situation. Even though I felt stuck in it, I was clearly denying rupture, and I clearly, probably because I was also overwhelmed and I didn't know how to proceed, I just shut down. Reading through my journal, I can tell that it was affecting my mental health, but I didn't say a word about it. It's disallowing my own ability to right to process my own experience. They succeeded in getting into my head and making me doubt myself, because I was clearly afraid to express my experience as it truly was, because I was afraid of it confirming the stereotype. So instead I just sat in it. I knew there was going to be consequences to my actions, you know, me pulling back, and there was reduced rapport and increased tension and awkwardness and so on, right? And a lack of resolution because I didn't initiate the resolution. Even though I knew that I had the power, like I knew that I could, I knew I had that skill, I was in a reactionary place where I feel like they didn't deserve that. But a part of the reason I didn't was because I knew, because of my actual lived sensitivity, I knew that I could handle my hurt. I knew that I could hold all of it. I knew that I wouldn't have to fracture, I wouldn't have to fragment myself. I knew that I could hold it wholly, the whole experience. I could contain all of it. Which was just another beautiful meaning that I could hold on to help me through that. But I can't say that it made it easier. It was an incredibly hard time to have someone that I loved and had such respect for and looked up to so much be that petty and dehumanize me, is how it felt, for their own benefit. That they would use something that they knew was a really, really old wound because they couldn't get the upper hand otherwise. Like I was just watching this person and I viewed them in a very different way. Like I definitely idealized this person in my life, and this was the opportunity. Taking off the rose-colored glasses, I guess, like witnessing this person as not who I thought you were, not me giving excuses as to why you act in certain ways, not me bolstering or enabling you. I'm not gonna catch you here. I've caught you a lot in my life. I'm not gonna catch you. I just wanna see how you do on your own. Who are you? What is your character? I'm gonna let you tell me rather than me fill in the blanks. is how it felt to me. And it hurt. It took a long time. It hurt. It changed a lot of things. And also just this sense of loss. Like, I thought I'd changed my idea of the meanings around sensitivity so much that the fact that it could still sweep me up like that really was like I will never let this mean to me what it has ever again. Like, how can I have done so much work and have developed my relationship with sensitivity so much and feel so fucking emboldened and empowered by it and found such useful outlets to then be thrown back into this place where I feel like there is no constructive path forward. I cannot let this be any longer. I will never let someone else undercut me or pull the rug out from under me like that again. And that was a great deal of why I wrote the podcast, because like, oh no, we're gonna detail it. You don't get to make me feel ashamed and hide from my experience. We're going to detail every fucking aspect of it. Stereotype that people want me to shut the fuck up about because it's annoying and it's old and it's boring. Cool, then don't fucking listen, because we're gonna talk about it and we're gonna detail everything about it, why it feels like that, your lived reality, how this is imposed on you, where your power lies. We're gonna talk about it all, because we're gonna bring to light, because I know I'm not the only one who lives a life like this and who's been treated like this, and we're gonna give it words, and we're gonna give people who have been silenced, not just with this, but anything in the same like process of corruption. We're going to give you an experience to create a sense of community and shared experience. We're going to bring it to light and we're going to do something with it. So no one can take me off guard like that again. No one could tell me what this means. Ever. And that was something I think I knew, but this experience really helped me realize was that you have to want it to mean something else too. You know what I mean? The whole experience and the stereotype in my history and this person in our relationship and them utilizing it against me, that all has meaning, that all hurts, that's all really happening. That is an experience. But I don't have to dismantle those things. I don't have to disqualify them to have this all mean something else too. And because it's so easy to get swept up in that momentum, you have to really want to build a different meaning. You have to really want to sit with it. You really have to want to process it. You have to want to stick with it and build on it so that it can become integrated and become a belief and become a hefty meaning that you can rely on, like all these old ones that have been maybe imposed on you that there is endless proof for. And you have to be happy holding that new meaning. And I don't want to simplify here because, of course, meaning isn't all conscious. You know what I mean? Like, I think like majority of meaning isn't conscious. And I don't want to somehow be dismissing, you know, the layers of conditioning and trauma. But I just think that we need to be more aware of how we reinforce meanings every fucking day. Every day, all day, we are reinforcing how we will be treated, how we treat others, how we relate to the world, our place in the world, understanding ourselves. All day long, literally every present moment of the day, you are constantly reinforcing things. You're reinforcing your relationships, you're reinforcing boundaries or a lack of, you're reinforcing your habits, you're reinforcing expectations. Every single second of your life is potential until it happens, until it happens, until it happens. And every moment that has not happened is still potential, is still potential, is still potential. Every moment of your day, you are building something. And I felt like I had this old paradigm superimposed upon my current life where I currently, like, it just didn't match my current identity. And it was this interesting crossroads where I had to really see not just how far I came, but how far maybe I still had to go, or almost a recognition of the power that you have to still change it. Like, maybe how much old shit I still had to grieve and let go of, how many forms were still restricting me, that maybe even like I had been so self-congratulatory because I'd come so far, and it's like this almost kind of woke me up to be like, there's still so much power. I'm not powerless. There's still so much power you have to change things. There's still so much for you to change. There's still so much for you to want to let go. And this was a reality check because it made me realize how much I hadn't let go of yet. In a moment like that, when you feel trapped, your instinct is to change it, to act. But so many of my choices in the past for how to handle this and how to confront it and how to change it was met with silencing. So I knew I had this power to want to enact change. I knew I had the power and the potential. I knew I had the desire, but I was put back into this situation where it felt like every avenue that I could go down felt corrupted. In that moment, I had nothing to do but to surrender to that intarnishable center, because everything else felt like it was being tarnished, right? In that rupture, in that storm, everything's being picked up and torn off and thrown places. What is still real? In this rupture, what is going to be steadfast? What is going to remain? This is ripping up so many, I don't know, maybe they were armored pieces that I had decorated and I thought that they were different than what they are, but actually once all the rain washed all the paint off, I saw that they were just still old news, and they were still actually just really, really limiting me, and I hadn't actually gotten rid of them, you know? I felt so helpless. And not because I didn't know better, not because I didn't know I was more than that, not because I thought that I deserved it. You know what I mean? Like I could see around it. That was the thing in this moment. I could see around it, and I wanted to take action and do something with it. I wanted to get rid of it. I knew I didn't deserve feeling like that. I knew that it was a waste of my time. I didn't want to build on the meaning. And it was just like I've talked about in previous episodes, where you have that moment of rupture where you're like, fall to your knees symbolically. And it's like, what can I do? How can I see this differently? How do I get out of this? And the only thing, like there was lots of little things, right? Like I didn't disallow myself joy. I did allow myself to make the podcast. I did allow myself to journal and to have fun and to go camping with my family and to watch movies I loved. And I was working on a yoga course, and I was finishing on my yoga education shortly before that. And like so many things. I was working on screenplays and manuscripts, and I was doing tons of things that I loved. It's not like I disallowed myself the things that I loved. It's doing those things did not discount the amount of pain that I felt simultaneously, that I just wanted to outrun. But I felt that the only thing that I could really do was to get even deeper into this inclination of mine to sense. You can't change what other people are doing. You can't change the legal obligation you have to be here in this situation now. You know what I mean? You can't change your past meanings. You can't change the fact that this has weight. You might not want it to. You can get past the point where this, this means anything to you. You can make it not mean to you. You can get to the point where this will not mean anything to you, but you can't change the fact that it means something to you right fucking now. You can't change the fact that this person in your relationship is changing. You can't change the fact that maybe they don't respect you the way that you thought that they did. You can't change the fact that actually they are not who you thought they were, and you don't respect them. You so deeply want to respect them, and that respect is being broken. And that hurts, and you want to avoid that. You can't change any of these things. You just have to sit in these things. You have to let them hurt you. You have to let life change. You have to sit here and sense it all. Are you going to admit this rupture? And I felt, or maybe feel now, that is nearly impossible to admit if you can't touch that intarnishable center, if you can't get in touch with that wellspring and to know its formidability, not just intellectually, but in your body, to know that lack of uncertainty, to know that place where there is no uncertainty. In rupture, there is no stillness. It just feels like everything is breaking and snapping and popping and burning and ripping, and everything hurts and everything's confusing. And you can't bypass that, right? You have to let your experiences be birthed through. You can't bypass that as a part of life. So is there no reprieve? Like, of course there is. You're surrounded by things where there is no stillness. And what do? You go deeper to where there is stillness. And I, in my life, at least this far, have found that there is no way to get past these things, to get through these things, to integrate them the most you possibly can, right? To make them the most delicious, not the experience necessarily, but the outcome, to make it as fucking delicious as possible You have to be able to know that there's something deeper to you than conventions, than your personality, than the proof of who you are and what you're worth and where you belong. I truly feel that if I did not know, if I hadn't developed that sense of connection with myself, I couldn't have let it be. I couldn't have let them act as they acted and be as unfazed as I was, right? I didn't react. I didn't snap up. I didn't control. I didn't insult. I didn't tear anyone down. I didn't play them against each other. I could not have ceased. I couldn't have not joined that orbit. You know what I mean? I couldn't have stopped that momentum if I didn't know how to get to what was still. If I didn't know what was still, if I didn't know where it was stillness, I didn't know what that felt like, I couldn't have not been swept up in it. I would not have been able to handle that experience or any experience like that with grace if I didn't know what preceded those meanings. It was my ability to hold firm to that. Like, that's the opposite of ambivalence, is the only word, like the words coming to my mind right now. I mentioned, I think in the first episode of this season, that rupture is not what breaks you, ambivalence is. And there was so much ambivalence coming to both of the people in this situation, the actual situation that I was in, the meanings, the whole fucking schwack of meanings brought forward into the present moment from the past, my ideas of myself. And there were so many things from so many different angles. There was so much ambivalence. There were so many things I wanted to do, so many things I didn't want to do, so many things that I wanted out of. There was so much going on all at once. And I couldn't maybe tie up those ambivalent, jagged pieces. I couldn't make them be cohesive, and I wasn't supposed to. What I could do was sink in. What I could do was be willing to sense and to go deeper. Because when you sense and you can sink in and you can actually find that center and you can truly trust yourself, the entirety of who you are, trust that certainty. Once you can reach there, where you are uncorrupted and powerful, that moment, that process, that trust changes the trajectory of everything. And to think that we're told or taught that that is a limitation, that brief time or space of stillness, of certainty, of knowing, of trust, of integrity, that deep place, and that it's within you. It's not outside of you. It's not something, even a skill you learn. It's not something that's approved of. It's not something that has to be, you know what I mean? It's all internal. To trust yourself, to turn inward. The idea that this moment isn't to succumb to other people. It's not to act, take control. It's none of these things. It's not to give, not hopelessness. It's not apathy. All of these courses of action that are so plentiful and highlighted, and the path of succumbing and acceptance and rupture and sensing is completely bypassed. That process, that act is corrupted. We don't realize that this is the missing piece. This is what we're constantly skipping over because we either have no frame for it, no model for it, or we're somehow taught, even if it's just implied, that this is a limitation, this is self-centered, that this is selfish, that this is a waste of time, that this isn't of value. There's no proof, there's no value. This is where everything changes. This is where you can hold tight to any experience so that you're not torn apart, so that you're not forced to, be the effect of a form. You are the generator, and this generator doesn't need to react to prove or maintain or grab up, control, and dictate at all, because it is intarnishable. No matter the rupture, how loud, how far, how big, doesn't matter. It is always in integrity. It is always pure, and it is always there. You have to tap into the presence. You have to slow down. You have to drop in. You have to feel what's actually going on in you at that moment. And there are going to be a lot of meanings. But meanings are not absolute. Meanings are not unchanging. They're not unforgiving. They are mutable. Meanings are mutable. And you can sink below them. You can sink to what precedes meaning into something deeper. There is something deeper, and you have to be willing to believe that, to know that, to get there first. That is how you get to your own truth. That's how you get to self-trust. You have to go back to sensing without having to hail to form. Because when you live and you're tapped out and you're accepting forms given to you by other people surrounding you, handed down generations, whatever, repeating forms of time past, relying on them as if they're a source, enacting them like a habit, it skews the energy. It almost like covers up that space where you can slip down into yourself so you don't see it. It distorts the power and the avenue that you have to make use of and cause change in your own life, to be an agent of action in your own life. It is our ability and our willingness. It's our willingness to sense and to attune to different things that allow us to be an active participant in our life. So tap in.